She's in a padded room, which is supposed to be completely safe, but she has that psychopath board connecting all the things with a bunch of thumbtacks.
Yeah.
You think you're gonna leave the mental patient with a bunch of thumbtacks?
Yeah, she wants.
How about let's give her 100 sharp objects? That should be fine.
Welcome in, everybody, to a horror movie review here at HTGS. I am your fearless host, the bravest man on the planet, Rob Coakley, joined, as always, by Dave Wilkins.
Hello, Rob Coakley.
Not as brave as me. And Jesse Wilkins.
Brave Jesse, some call me.
We've have video evidence that contradicts that. But today we are not here to talk about our bravery. We are here to talk about the movie Final Destination 2. And I was very excited to go back and revisit this movie. We're going to talk about the relatively opening scene because that is what everyone remembers from this. There wasn't much more that I remembered, so a revisit to this was definitely necessary for me. Before we do, though, Dave, can you hit us with a Final Destination 2 synopsis?
Yes. Final Destination 2, directed by David R. Ellis. Kimberly has a premonition of a horrible highway accident killing multiple people, including her and her friends. She blocks the cars behind her on the ramp from joining traffic, and as a police trooper arrives, the accident actually happens. Now, death is stalking this group of mistaken survivors, and one by one, they are dying as they were supposed to on the highway. So, this is one of 5 movies. It is the second installment and definitely the strongest and the peak of this series, in my opinion. And I think, Rob, you made a face at that. I think that's interesting that you don't think this is the best one of the series.
I will let you continue your thought process, and then I will have my thought process after.
Yeah, I think this is the peak of the series, and I think they get worse after this. But this one, I think, is, people always give credit to the Ghost Ship as being like the greatest horror opening of all time, or at least most shocking. And I think that this one actually probably is. This is one of my favorite opening scenes to any horror movie ever. Is this
opening scene?
It's well, you know what I mean.
It's not the opening scene.
Fair. Okay, fine. This is the scene that defines the whole movie, though. This is what everyone remembers about this movie. Like you said, even in the beginning, like you remembered that one highway scene and pretty much nothing after that. But this scene, if you saw this movie when it came out in 2003 or even after it came out, you have PTSD from this scene. And if you don't believe me, drive by a log truck on the highway without thinking about this movie. You can't do it. It's just engraved in everyone's mind, and everyone I've ever been with on a highway, when we drive by a log truck, is like, oh, that scene. And it's just, for the time, I thought the CGI was actually pretty good in this movie in a lot of the scenes. I mean, it had its moments where it was kind of shaky, but I've seen a lot worse, a lot more recent than this movie. And one thing that I will say about this movie, while it definitely has its flaws that we can get into, it's just some of the best kills in horror history.
I don't think this is a good movie overall. And I think that what this movie does is this really defines the franchise as one of the franchises that you're just going to for the kills, because it has some really good kills in this movie. The rest of this movie is an absolute travesty. It's so bad. The rest of this movie is so bad. Bad.
First of all, so you made a face when I said this is the peak of the series. It's the best Final Destination movie.
I don't think it's better than the first one.
It's absolutely better than the first one. I'll give you, it's a better written story, but the graphics and the kills in this movie put it over the top, in my opinion. And everything after it was garbage. I don't remember. I'll have to go back and watch 3. I don't remember if I liked that or not, but I definitely don't. I remember not liking it as much as 2.
3 is a lot like 2 in the sense that, like, I don't remember the movie. I remember the opening kills, and I remember one specific kill, which is exactly what I remembered with this movie. I remembered the opening log truck, and I remembered the window scene.
The window scene is great.
I mean, because that's one of my favorite. I think that's my favorite kill in the entire series. To be
The barbed
completely
wire
honest,
fence was pretty great.
the what?
The barbed wire fence was pretty great.
Oh, I thought that was whack. I
No.
thought that was really stupid. To be honest,
That was awesome.
no, because that's not how that's going to happen. Like
So-
it's not going to go straight through him.
If it's going fast enough, it would.
It wasn't going to go fast enough. Like that situation was
explosion.
ridiculous.
It was a projectile from a car exploding. It absolutely could have been going fast.
Cars don't explode like they do in this movie. That's the
Cars
other-
explode in movies like they do in this movie.
Okay.
It's not like they're like reinventing the wheel. Cars explode in every movie. Not every
Jesse,
movie, but many
Jesse,
movies.
Cars
please
have
weigh in.
wheels.
What?
I was just mentioning that cars have wheels.
That's true.
Thank you. Is that your review of this movie?
I thought the barbed wire kill would have been better if it kind of like wrapped around him and launched him backwards. And then when they found him, he was like in pieces or almost in pieces. So I do feel like I'm with you, Rob, where that one, he wouldn't have been standing still and then slowly slipped into pieces. But that's kind of, I don't know. Anyways, it's an old movie. If we haven't mentioned it already, we're going to spoil it. That was one of the final kills in the movie. But overall, absolutely iconic scene is the log scene. I thought the special effects for the most part actually held up.
Yeah.
One of the things that they did well with this is they made everything happen really fast. So you didn't have time to analyze if it was bad CGI. I'm sure if you slowed it down frame for frame, it would look absolutely terrible. But for the most part, a lot of the CGI was just fine. I thought it was honestly held up with some of the CGI today. So the kills were quick. The kills were good. They do the same thing of leading you on about you think he's going to die one way, and then it happens 4 or 5 hints later, and it kind of gets predictable where you're like, oh, well, this thing just got unplugged, so that's how he's going to die. And then you're like, oh, never mind. Why did I even believe that? Because of course it's going to be 4 things later, So it was a little bit predictable in that sense, but overall, when the kills actually happened, they happened so quick that you didn't have time to catch the bad effects if they were bad in the first part. So I thought overall it was pretty good. I think that the biggest problem with this movie, and there was a few of them, was just the over explanation of what's going on. And it was just nonstop.
Doesn't stop.
Them figuring things out. Also, what the hell was going on with that mortician guy? Like, he was just way too over the top.
Tony Todd?
Well, hang on. Before we get off the exposition dumps in this movie, I don't think we should just breeze past this, because this is, if not the main issue with this movie, is the top 2 main issues that I have with this movie. And I think in a recent movie that we reviewed, I don't remember which one it was, but I think it might have been Heretic, but we were talking about how like exposition throughout the movie trickled is a great way to deliver exposition. This movie had exposition throughout the whole movie, but it was all exposition dump after dump after dump. And the reason they had to do that was because they overcomplicated the plot.
Yes.
By so much. The original plot was kind of like an esoteric idea. You don't really, there's no like, it really hasn't been done before. And it was fairly simple. Like, you escape death, death comes back and reclaims. This one was like, you escape death and then death comes back. But if you do this, then it reverses the order. It's like, dude, what? This is stupid. You could have just done the same thing.
Yeah. And you're all tied into the original people that died. And it just like, it was way too convoluted and way too much.
Absolutely.
Right. With the whole bring in a new life and this, but they were so relieved when that baby was born. Like, oh, we did it. It's over. You don't really know. You kind of just had this idea and assumed that if this baby was born, it would all be over. And thank God they didn't dwell on that, because then the explosion happens right after that. But at the same time, it's like, you're just kind of hoping that this idea is going to fix the thing. They were way too relieved. They were way too sure about it. It was just, yeah.
And with the visions that she kept having over and over, like they're like, oh, the baby was born, we're saved. And then she suddenly has a vision where she remembers that the woman was never killed. Was just stupid. It was such a bad exposition dump. Also a lazy way of utilizing that storyline.
Yeah. Also, why are you letting the person that's having visions and slipping out of consciousness drive cars? That seemed like a bad idea overall.
Yeah, I know.
There was a lot of poor planning in a lot of these scenes.
So that's kind of our overall, like all of our like, basic takes. I'd like to go back to the beginning and sort of work our way through this movie, because I have taken some notes. So I want to go back to the log scene, and we'll just start there. The not the opening scene, by the way, Dave. That wasn't the opening scene. She was laying in bed. watching television for the
Sure.
opening scene. That's
Ask
why
anybody if they remember the opening scene of Final Destination 2. It's the highway scene.
nobody remembers. It's not the opening scene though. That's why it doesn't get past Ghost Ship.
I conceded. I did. I
All
conceded.
right, good. All right, so during the log scene, before the accident, as they're driving on the highway during the premonition, is this not the worst cop ever throughout this entire movie? And it starts with this scene. He's driving by, there's people doing coke on the highway, swerving, drinking alcohol in big trucks. This
He's
cop
missing-
seeing
he
none of
missed
this,
all of it.
missed it all. Didn't see a thing. The worst cop, knock off Wes Bentley. Like just does not know what is going on.
Don't you talk about Jimmy Garoppolo like that.
He did look like Jimmy Garoppolo.
Bikers flashing school buses. And stuff.
Bikers flashing. Yeah, there's so much going on in this movie, and in this just on this highway, people smoking weed in the back of the truck, which was illegal back then. Like
Massive amounts of littering with cans all over the highway.
yeah. This Stady did not care at all. So,
and then when she blocks the on ramp, the cop pulls up and doesn't pull her off to the side. Just like, let's have a whole conversation about it with the whole.
I'd be losing my mind if I was in that traffic jam. I get mad about it when I'm on like a regular road and the cop hasn't pulled over. It happened the other day. I was on like a main road, but there's only 2 lanes. We're right next to a giant parking lot, and the cop still pulls the guy over, and there's no shoulder, so that people are having to go around. It's like, dude, common sense. Like, just pull him into the parking lot. So that upset me as I was watching this. That whole scene. Like, also, this cop is a pedophile. I'm just gonna say it. Like, she's a teenager. This, like, the girl that's having the premonition, she's like young, right?
I don't know. I mean, she might be college age.
I don't know, man. I think she was like 17, 18, going on her first trip with her friends. Maybe she just turned 18. This cop's like trying to hold her hand. He's like wrapping his arm around her by the end of the movie. It was really creepy, really weird. I was like, dude, come on. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Let's not do this little fake love fest. Not every single person has to fall in love in a movie at all. So hate this cop. This cop sucks. He's the worst. I wish that we actually saw his death in this movie.
Came close a few times, but no, overall, yeah, the biggest problem with this movie is the writing. The acting wasn't remarkably terrible. There wasn't any good acting, but there wasn't any there wasn't too much horrible acting. You got really, I don't know, early 2000s vibes. When did this movie come out?
I want to say it came out in 03.
Yeah, it was very much a 2003 movie. And yeah, the only issue I had with the opening, not the opening, sorry, with the log scene was it did drag a little bit, where like you knew something was going to happen right there. And going back and watching it again, because I had seen this movie when it first came out, we actually saw it in theaters in California. Dave, I don't know if you remember that. We went to California to see this movie.
Had to travel for it.
Yes. And
just to correct the record, she was playing a college student in this movie.
All right.
Yeah. Take back your pedo comments, Rob.
It's still weird. It's still weird. You're still the cop. It's still weird. It's still a weird situation. I don't take it back.
It was aggressive.
That was
we should
aggressive.
probably stop saying that word.
Yeah, we'll probably have to edit all of that out, to be honest with you. I think that's one of the no words. Anyways, the scene with it also, you're driving so recklessly with that coffee. You gotta know if you're cup holdering a hot cup of coffee to put a lid on it, or you got to drink some of it before you put it in your cup holder. But that thing, it was ridiculous. Yeah. Actually, the most ridiculous thing in this movie was how he was driving with that coffee.
Yeah, this cop sucks.
Yeah,
okay,
just because of the coffee.
Another correction, not a correction, but she was a college student, but her character was 19.
All right. Well, he's still a state police officer.
Right.
I don't like it.
Fair.
It made me uncomfortable.
You know what scene I think they blew? I thought when that dude had his hand stuck in the garbage disposal there, I thought he should have flipped on the garbage disposal to free his hand. I feel like the fire should have got closer and closer to a point where his only option was to cut off his own hand. I remember when I first saw the movie, I thought that was what he was going to have to do. And rewatching it, I was like, I still wish that they did that because that would have been like almost Saw-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
great-
he should have had to cut off his hand because who cooks pasta in like a saucepan like that, like a frying pan?
who
Yeah, he was-
takes their shirt off to cook anything in a frying pan?
Yeah, that's
good point,
also
too.
true.
You're gonna get splashed by the little.
It's a terrible idea.
But we're cooking pasta in a frying pan. Come on, bro.
Not
Like,
only that, like he threw the pasta out the window, which is outrageous, especially when he had so much other
Trash in his apartment.
so much trash in his apartment. But he chucks it out the window, which I thought was kind of funny. But then he doesn't even wipe the pan before he starts cooking something different in there. Like you deserve to die there. That was a murderable offense right there.
yeah. And there was so much leftover pasta in that pan. Like I know that no one knows how to cook the right amount of pasta. It's
Yeah.
it's a thing we will never learn. But that was too much. That was aggressive. There was an aggressive amount of pasta left in that pan.
Mhm.
That is something that I cook a lot of pasta. Big Italian food kind of guy.
Yeah.
I've never gotten it right.
No.
Do you know
And then
do you know the hack?
No,
Do
please
you
tell
know,
us.
do you have the plastic scooper with like it's got like the fingers that are like this and they it has like a hole in the middle, that spoon?
I don't, but I believe the hole is like a serving size, right?
Yeah, of dry pasta.
Mm.
Mm. Nah, that's too easy. We have to eyeball
We
it
have to keep eyeballing it and getting it wrong.
until we will get it right by the time we're 70, maybe.
Maybe.
Now, in
Probably
the rare occasion that my entire family is home for dinner, I have found that one box will pretty much do the trick.
Yeah.
Mm.
You have that leftover pasta you throw in the trash.
But then you worry. Then you worry that it's not going to be enough pasta.
not gonna be
and
enough.
You
You
still
stress the
go
whole time.
overboard and break into another box.
Also, the best type of pasta is rotini.
Rotini's
Well,
good.
I mean, it depends on the dish, right?
Yeah.
Well, true, but as something to encompass most food, I prefer rotini just to.
It would make a terrible lasagna.
Well, yeah. I mean, come on, bro. You're not putting spaghetti on lasagna either.
I would do a spaghetti lasagna.
Would you?
No.
Now you have to make it.
That's ridiculous.
You know what's weird is that like I love Italian food, obviously, and Italian food is a lot like Mexican food, where it's the same thing just compiled differently, just in a
Yeah.
different shape.
Chips, yeah.
Right? But I'm not a lasagna guy. Now, all of the ingredients that are in lasagna, I'm fine with in a different shape. But lasagna itself, I don't know.
Oh,
Doesn't
lasagna
do
is
it for
great.
me. I've never been a lasagna.
Lasagna, I understand your plight, Jesse, because people make lasagna so many different ways
Mhm.
that there are specific lasagnas that I've had that I have not been a huge fan of. But when lasagna is done right, it is incredible.
Yeah. That's what I was just gonna say. Great lasagna is great, and bad lasagna is bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like spaghetti and meatballs is kind of. I mean, you can be the same. You can say the same thing about anything, but don't cook it in a frying pan.
Now I'm hungry.
Now I want lasagna. Let's do it. Let's stop recording and go make our own lasagnas. You have to make the spaghetti one though, Dave.
No one's listening anymore anyway, so we might as well make lasagna.
We're probably gonna trim a lot of this out.
No, let's keep it all in. Everyone wants to hear our lasagna talks. I have another complaint about this movie.
Mm.
Hear me out on this. Just hear me out. Crazy idea. If you figured out that death is coming to kill all of you, that's what's happening. Why is your plan to all be in the same room, locked together?
All in the same car, all the
All in
time.
the same car, always together. Like, why? I would be like, I don't want to be around any of you. Like, I need to be away from all of you that are about to die. This is a terrible plan that they're hatching here.
There's another
The most-
inconsistency that I wanted to point out, and it was the order of death was so locked in that the guy who tried to shoot himself clicked 6 duds in the like dud bullets in the revolver, clicked it 6 times, it wouldn't go off, and they're like, oh, that's because it's not your turn. But at the end of the movie, when she drives into the lake, it wasn't her turn. The cop was supposed to go first.
Mm.
And she shouldn't have been able to drown technically by those standards.
Oh,
Right.
That's a great call.
Mm.
Yeah.
Also, once you realize that you're superhuman, you got to go out and do some badass stuff.
Yeah.
You literally can't die. Go into a burning building and save the lottery. Go save another lottery winner. Do something useful. Go win an entire war right now. Go into a war zone. You can't die. You are literally a superhero, just as
Except
long as those other people don't die right away.
except for when she did die
Yeah.
in the van when she drowned.
Yeah, except for when it didn't work. Also, if you're the fire department, I have so many gripes with this movie. If you're the fire department and you're about to use the jaws of life on this woman who's stuck in her truck, we're not going to remove that PVC pipe behind her head first with the
Yeah, or
gigantic
disable the
sharp end.
airbag or something. Yeah,
Where-
that was a miscalculation.
This was
Great kill though. Loved
yeah,
it.
it was awesome.
Shocking. First time I saw it, I was like, "Oh, did not see that coming." Just totally
No.
did not see that coming.
I don't know how we didn't.
I don't know. It was a great scene.
This movie definitely is the one that set the franchise up because, like you said, Dave, the first movie, there's some sort of a story there that you are a bit interested in, that you want to follow that bit of like intrigue there. This movie, everything in between was just to get you to the next kill. They were like, I bet they wrote 5 kills and they were like, all right, well, we got to get from here to here to here to here. Just talk about death and some bullshit. Yeah. Make sure you get a scene with Tony Todd, have him say some vague ass shit so that people don't know what actually is happening. And make a baby have a thing. I don't know. Just get to the kills, basically, and that's what this franchise became, which is fine. But it's not a good movie, is what I would say.
Yeah, also kind of unnecessary for them to go to the mental hospital and visit the girl who had been through it before because they already had it figured out by then anyways. It was kind of unnecessary. And then she immediately just starts taking all the risks that she had vowed not to take.
I know.
Yeah. And to your point, Jesse.
Sorry. Before I move off that, when she first walks in the room, she goes, "Step back from me." And then within 4 seconds, she starts walking towards her. It's like, so what was this? You've already changed your mind? Like she immediately, and go back and rewatch it because she immediately, after she tells her to do it, she starts walking closer to her, getting all serious. Like, wait, I thought you wanted to keep your distance, you moron.
Yeah. To your point, they are just spitballing some ideas so fast in this movie. Like and everyone's coming up with the answers on this. And you're just like, what are we doing here? Why is everybody so knowledgeable on what's going on? I couldn't stand it. I hated it so much.
She's in a padded room, which is supposed to be completely safe, but she has that psychopath board connecting all the things with a bunch of thumbtacks.
Yeah.
You think you're going to leave the mental patient with a bunch of thumbtacks?
Yeah, she wants.
How about let's give her 100 sharp objects? That should be fine.
Well, to be fair, she wasn't a mental patient. She admitted herself and she was there at her own will. They're like, she's voluntary. So she
voluntary was or not, if you're in a psych ward, you are a mental patient.
Sure. Yeah. No, you're right. But
if you turn yourself in for crimes and go to jail, even though you turn yourself
in for crimes.
I guess, yeah. Well, that's not jail. It was just it was a bad other example.
Don't let it happen.
And the other thing I didn't like is they were making a big deal about the order of who was like the deaths had to happen in order. And I feel like they didn't give us the order well in this movie, unless I just completely missed like 10 seconds of the movie. I thought they didn't like lay out who was supposed to go when so well.
It wasn't very clear on who was we kind of didn't know unless they mentioned like, oh, that means you're next.
Yeah,
I'm fine that they didn't because I really didn't need the additional exposition time.
I mean, fair. Also, is the teenage kid 30? Like, how old is he supposed to be?
Which one? The one who got flattened by the glass pane, or the kid who blew up in the end?
No, that was a great. Did you guys recognize who the kid that got blown up in the end was?
Yeah, it was Mickey, right?
Mickey from
Shameless.
From Shameless, yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, that was pretty. I was like, oh, is that him? And I was like, yeah, that's definitely him. No, the kid that got hit by the glass pane, because he's said that he's 16 in the movie, but he plays the character like he's 8. Like his mom's tucking him in at night and like giving him his medicine, and she's talking to him like he's 8 years old. And he's acting like he's 8 years old. And then the whole like kicking the pigeons thing is like something that an 8-year-old would do.
Oh, yeah, completely. That was it. I got to play with the pigeons. Like, dude, practically out of high school. What are you?
Yeah. You're at least a sophomore. What are we doing here? And
I have 16-year-olds. If we didn't give them their medicine, they would die.
fair.
But would they run up to a pack of pigeons all delighted because they found birds?
Probably not.
Yeah. So my thought process as I was watching this character, I'm like, I bet they wrote this character younger. My guess is in the script, the kid was younger, and they went to the studio, and the studio was like, guys, you can't flatten an 8-year-old with a window pane. Like, we can't let you do that.
Yeah, that's quite possible.
That was as I was watching, I'm like, I bet that's what it was. And they were like,
Yeah.
all right, we'll make him 16, but we ain't changing shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that this was like kind of the look, and maybe they should have casted someone with different colored hair or something, but I thought he looked way too much like the kid who won the lottery. And
Mhm.
I had confused the two for a few moments, and I was like, wait a second, why is he living with his mom? I thought he had an
Yeah.
apartment. It was kind of a. I thought the actors just looked a little too much alike, which goes to show that this was not an 8-year-old kid. This was clearly, he was a lot older than what he was casted to be, because he looks a whole lot like the lottery winner dude.
Yeah, it looked like a 30-year-old teenager. Just one of those kids. Those were most of my major complaints with this movie. Do I have anything else?
My only other complaint would be in the opening scene where they were at the accident happened,
Not the opening scene.
they turned onto the highway, right? And they're driving. You had enough time to get the biker flasher and the school bus go by, and they got to hide the weed because the cop's behind them. And all this goes on as they're driving down this highway. But then when she has the flashback ends and they're back on that on-ramp again, the accident happened like 100 feet from the on-ramp.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
They were driving for way too long for that accident to have been this close.
They would have been 14 miles down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which is another reason why I was like, this opening scene seemed like it was opening scene. We're going to keep saying that, Rob, just get under your skin. It just seemed like it was too long because they drove for so long. And instead, when it actually happened, it wasn't that long. But yeah, I mean, I guess you can go back to the plane taking off in the first movie. And there was a whole lot that happened on the plane before it blew up. But in the real time after the premonition, it just blew up pretty much right away.
Yeah, but there was everything happening while it was in the air or while they were sitting on the runway.
They were on the runway.
Yeah. Okay.
They were on the runway for most of that. My only other problem that I had, this is like just a silly little thing that I picked up on when they're in the car and they're going like right before they crash at the farm there, and they're having another one of their 37 exposition dumps. Allie Larter's in the car, and every time she talks, they don't cut to her. They're cutting to other characters, and then they only cut to her when she's not talking. And I was just really weird. It's 80-yard lines. I know that, but it was just really weird.
Yeah. What I was going to say was that probably means they had to fix all of her lines in post.
Yeah,
and
sure.
They weren't the same, so
Yeah.
They showed someone else. All right. So my biggest problem with this movie, before we move on, and this goes back to this cop sucking. When they're at that picnic or barbecue or whatever at the very end of the movie, and he goes to eat the shish kebab, he almost sticks the entire pointy. There was like 7 inches of point, like just sharp shish kebab stick. What do you call it?
Shish
Just
kebab.
word for it. No, the stick.
The kebab stick. Yeah.
The kebab stick. Anyways,
skewer.
There was like
Skewer.
6 inches of, thank you. We really need to have that in here. There was like 6 inches of skewer with no food on it, pointy end. And he goes to stick that end in his mouth first. He's going to like sword swallow this blade to get one bite of like a red pepper. And they stop him like, whoa. He's like, hey, it's not my first time doing something dangerous. Like, well, that's still your approach.
Yeah. You're not a fucking magician. What are you doing? Idiot.
It was the most of all the outrageous things to happen in this movie. The way he was about to eat that food was and I get why they did it. Like, oh, he's going to die by doing that. But like, still, like nobody with eyeballs and a brain is going to eat a shish kebab like that.
No, it was really stupid.
There were so many other just like crazy things that like would never fly in real life in this movie that obviously you have to, suspend your disbelief a little bit with the whole death coming to collect its revenge. But like other things that just shouldn't have worked or shouldn't have happened. Like you can't just arrest the pregnant woman for a trumped up stolen car charge and just hold her in a prison cell indefinitely until you figure that doesn't fly. Number one. Number two is you can't just go into the hospital while the doctor's on the way to an emergency surgery and then just detain her illegally at gunpoint.
I did think it was pretty funny when they busted into the room and the woman's giving birth, and they're like, "Oh, thank God!" and they're hugging each other, and she's like, "Who the hell are they?"
Yeah.
She didn't know them. That's right. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, it was just that was actually a pretty funny scene.
Yeah, it just so wild. Just this whole movie. This movie really sets the tone for the rest of the franchise. I think to your point, Dave, like kills wise and stuff, obviously the best, but I also think it just sets up what this franchise is about to be the rest of the way. And we'll see what they do with this year's release, because we have a new one coming out. It's called Final Destination Bloodlines in a couple months. So that's why we're starting to bang through some of these movies. But yeah,
I will say just because of the pacing of this movie, it was only a 90-minute movie, but it really towards the final, like the second half of the movie, just felt kind of like it was dragging. So it's a movie that was completely saved by the awesome kills. And other than that, it was a pile of garbage.
Yeah.
I think pile of garbage is a little bit harsh. I do think that obviously we talked about more negatives in this movie than anything. So you have to take that into consideration. But I thought the kills really carried the movie for sure. And I think that the kills made it better than the first one, even though the first one had a better story. And the story was just too convoluted and too wacky. But I think that this movie, I compared this franchise to the Saw franchise a lot, because it was kind of like the same trajectory. The first Saw movie was good, was great, I think. And then the second one was also good, but it was a little bit more over the top, which kind of set the pace for the rest of the franchise to just go bananas, which is what happened with this one. Only problem with this one is like the CGI fell off so hard in the later Final Destination movies that they just weren't. They were so bad. But this movie set the tone for an entire franchise, and I think that it was the best movie in the franchise, and I thought it was a good movie because of the kills.
Yeah. Again, overall, like I thought and what my point was that the kills absolutely saved and carried this movie. Kind of the same thing that you just said. The rest of the movie, like I didn't like it, but I thought the CGI was actually pretty good. The only scene that I really noticed that it was not great in was when the dude's apartment was burning, because the fire was burning in places that it shouldn't have been burning. Like the floor caught on fire.
Yeah.
Like, why did the floor catch on fire? So it was kind of
in this movie.
Yeah. But I mean, going back to the highway scene, they must have used a lot of practical effects, because these cars were getting absolutely smashed. Like it was actually it still holds up. It was a great scene overall. So
that log going through the windshield
I think that was practical. I think that was
for sure.
Yeah.
And even the logs falling off and bouncing on the highway, like it still
great scene. That first initial bounce where the screen shakes and everything.
Yeah. Everything about that scene, I thought they nailed it. So
that second scene.
Shall we hop into some ratings?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Dave, you're going to give it the highest score, I think. So why don't we start with you?
Probably. I got it at a 3.8, and I think that it, like I said, it's an enjoyable movie. I like it. I have a good time every time I go back and watch it, and it's one of the most memorable. I've seen so many horror movies that I just forget. Like I can't tell you 5 things about them a month after I've seen them, because so many of them are just cookie cutter. This one is super unique. It's a super unique franchise. Is it a slasher? It could be. It's just I think it's super memorable and the best of this. I actually don't remember what I rated the first one, but I got this one at a 3.8.
Yeah, I got this one at a 3.2. It was good. It was memorable. We went all the way to California to see it, so I thought it was good. I mean, it's just one of those scenes that you never forget from a movie. And you're absolutely right. I think I actually had posted in Discord like a couple months ago a picture of me behind one of those trucks. And I was like, not today.
Yeah.
And it was but yeah, overall enjoyed the rewatch on this movie. I don't think I had seen it since we went to California to see it. So it was good. I enjoyed it.
I'm a 2.9 on this one. I think I think the 2.9 is all the kills. Like that is what gets you the 2.9. I think everything else sort of, like, there was too much I rolled my eyes too much in this movie. I feel like just being like, come on, bro, what are we doing here? So 2.9 I think is fair for this one.
Mm-hmm. And great ending.
I think it's low. even you can even look at some of the scores from like Rotten Tomatoes has it at a 51%. IMDb has it 6.2 out of 10. So, and then the Google's rating is 4.3 out of 5. So it gets people like it.
Sounds like I hit the score perfectly then, Dave, because a 2.9 is basically a little over half.
About 60%.
Yeah, I think I nailed it personally.
Except for Google. Google had that super high.
Yeah, 4.5. What are we doing?
The lowest of all of them that I said. I thought you were a little low, which you are a little lower than the average.
Well, 2.9. What is your rating, everyone? Are you higher than a 2.9? Are you up there with a 3.8? Are you closer to a 5? If you are, you're an absolute psychopath. This movie is not that good, but if you are, let us know in the comments below. We will be reviewing at least one more Final Destination, I believe, before the new one comes out this year. We got to at least get 3 in. I think that's the roller coaster one.
I think we should skip to 5 or something. It's like absolute train wreck movie.
The third one has a really good kill in it.
It's the third one with the roller coaster?
Yeah, the third one's the roller coaster.
Third one is bad.
Third one's bad, but it has a really good kill in it.
Okay.
It's the tanning bed
we'll
one.
do the third one. We'll see.
Do you remember the tanning bed one?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
That's a pretty good one. But anyways, we'll cover that at a different time. Let us know your rating. We will catch you next time here. Later, everyone. Peace.